Somewhere in the Roman Empire, there's a city with full dinner tables, locked shops, and not a single person left to explain why. Not destroyed, not burned, just empty. Historians have a boring word for this: abandonment. But some of these cities didn't fade away over centuries. They went from full to empty in the space of one bad year. No siege, no army at the gates, just gone. And once you understand why, you'll never look at an empty ruin the same way again. You're probably already thinking of one city, Pompeii. In 79 AD, Vesuvius buried Pompeii and its neighbor Herculaneum under volcanic ash in under a day. People were frozen mid-meal, mid-argument, mid-step. That's the abandonment story everyone already knows. But that's not really a mystery. That's a natural disaster with a very clear cause. The real mystery is the cities that disappeared with no volcano, no fire, no invading army anyone wrote down. Across the Roman world, archaeologists keep finding the same strange pattern: a thriving Roman town. And then, within a generation, almost nobody living there anymore. Streets still paved, walls still standing, just no people choosing to stay. So what actually empties a city, if it's not a volcano and it's not an army? Turns out, Rome had at least 3 other ways to make a city disappear. And they're honestly scarier than a volcano. Reason number 1. Disease that moved faster than anyone could explain it. In 165 AD, Roman soldiers came home from a campaign in the east, carrying something nobody had a name for yet. Historians now call it the Antonine Plague. It may have been an early form of smallpox. The Roman historian Cassius Dio recorded a single detail that still lands like a punch: 2,000 deaths a day in the city of Rome alone. Picture that. An entire small town gone every single day for weeks. A century later, it happened again. The plague of Cyprian tore through the empire between 249 and 270 AD. In Alexandria, one of the largest cities in the ancient world, the population dropped by an estimated 62%. Here's how we actually know cities emptied this fast, not from dramatic stories, but from something far more boring: tax records. In Roman Egypt, surviving petitions show towns begging for tax relief because there weren't enough people left to pay. Farms went uncultivated. Mines sat empty because there was nobody left to work them. This wasn't a siege you could see coming. It moved through trade roads, rivers, and crowded ports, the very things that made Roman cities great. The same roads that built the empire also emptied parts of it. Reason number 2, the soldiers just left, and they never came back. For nearly 400 years, Roman Britain depended on legions stationed along its frontiers, especially Hadrian's Wall. Around 410 AD, the Western Empire was collapsing under its own pressure, and the troops protecting Britain were pulled back to defend Rome itself. Towns like Verulamium, once the 3rd largest city in Roman Britain, had thrived for centuries. Within a few generations, the coin economy that once paid soldiers and merchants simply stopped. People didn't dramatically flee in one night. They just stopped having a reason to stay. Take Wroxeter, once the 4th largest city in Roman Britain. Long after the legions left, people kept using its bathhouses and kept living among its crumbling halls. Then, sometime in the 5th or 6th century, even that quiet, stubborn version of the city emptied out for good. No record exists of the actual day the last family packed up and walked away. That silence, the missing goodbye, is exactly what makes it feel sudden, even though it happens slowly. Reason number 3 is the strangest one, because it happened to Rome itself. At its peak, the city of Rome held over 1 million people. It may have been the largest city on Earth. It needed an enormous constant supply of water just to function, so Rome built aqueducts, 11 of them, stretching for hundreds of miles. In 537 AD, a Gothic army laid siege to Rome, and they didn't just attack the walls. They cut the aqueducts. Within years, entire hillside neighborhoods that depended on that water simply couldn't function anymore. People moved down toward the river. The one reliable water source left. The hills, once packed with apartment blocks, emptied out. By the 6th century, the city that once held over 1 million people had shrunk to under 50,000. Not because of a volcano, not because of a single battle, because someone cut the water, and an entire way of city life simply stopped working. Now, to be fair to the historians, almost none of this happened in a single literal night. Plagues took years to run their course. Armies took time to march away. Aqueducts failed gradually, not all at once. But here's why it still feels sudden, even centuries later. There's no diary entry that says, "Today we left." No farewell carved into a wall, just a town that was full. And then, one day, when archaeologists finally arrived, it wasn't. The gap between occupied and empty in the historical record is what makes it feel like it happened overnight, even when it took years. So plague, withdrawal, and broken infrastructure. 3 very different stories, with one thing in common. Every one of these cities depended on something fragile that nobody thought to question until it broke. Clean water, a functioning economy, enough healthy people to keep the whole machine running. Pull out one piece, and a city that took centuries to build can empty out faster than anyone expected. That's the real story hiding behind every quiet, empty ruin. Not a single dramatic ending, a system that simply stopped holding itself up. So which one surprised you more? The plague nobody saw coming, or the aqueduct that emptied a million-person city? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this changed the way you'll look at a ruin next time you see one, that's exactly what this channel is for. History isn't just old stone, it's a warning written in silence. See you in the next one.